Welcome to another segment of High School Geometry with Netz and Weichel. This is Mrs. Netz.
And this is Mrs. Weichel.
And today we are looking at 4.3 parallel line constructions. What are we learning? Well, by the end of the lesson, you will be able to understand the relationships between lines and angles on a plane and in space by constructing parallel lines. Understanding parallel lines is useful in understanding the relationships between paths of objects and sides of various shapes. How will you know it? Well, you'll know you've mastered it when you can differentiate between parallel, perpendicular, skew, intersecting lines, and classify angles formed by two lines and a transversal. Ooh, that's coming back. Parallel lines cut by a transversal.
Yes, the pictures you're going to actually be constructing today should look very familiar to you.
You mean like parallel lines cut by a transversal?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's exactly
let's
right.
go.
All right. So I'm just going to say this now. What you're actually doing, your picture is going to be a pair of parallel lines with a transversal. And the whole 5 steps that you're given here are the same 5 steps to copy an angle. You're actually going to copy a pair of corresponding angles in today's lesson, because we know if the lines are parallel, then the corresponding angles must be congruent. And we know the converse of that is that if you have congruent corresponding angles, then the lines must be
parallel.
So we're going to use the converse of the corresponding angle theorem to actually do this construction.
I love it.
Yes. So to do this, the first step is to draw a line that intersects both the line and the given point. This is going to be your transversal if you want to add that little note in. This line that I've drawn here is actually going to become my transversal. So you can see, remember, a transversal has to intersect 2 or more lines. I'm intersecting 1 line. My second line is going, the one we're going to create, to construct, is going to be parallel to this one, and it's going to go through this point. So we know our line is going to end up somewhere down here. If you can visualize what it's going to end up looking like, that can help. Our second step is to draw an arc from where the lines intersect. The arc must make 2 intersections. So this is where we're going to start to copy our corresponding angles. So remember, when we did this back in, 3.1, I believe?
Think so.
There are 4 pairs of corresponding angles. So here's, oh, my highlighter's gone. Sorry about that. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can actually pick any angle that you want to be the corresponding angle that you are copying. So it's important that you pick one that's helpful to you and that you are comfortable using. I find, as somebody that has done these, that acute angles are easier to copy than obtuse. But obtuse angles work just fine if you want to use that. So I'm going to choose to copy this one. So I drew my arc. It is intersecting 2 times, once right here and twice right here. Make yourself a note that step 2 and 3 must happen back to back, because you can see what I'm starting with is without adjusting. Whenever we do that, that means what you did in step 2, you have to also do in step 3. So it's really important that you do those back to back to each other. So you can see here is my step 2, my arc I drew. Here's my 1, 2 intersections. It says to slide the point down to where the line and the point intersect. Draw the same arc. So I use the word slide. You're going to slide down the transversal, and this is the vertex of my angle. This is going to become the vertex of my angle. So we're sliding from here, we're going to slide to here. That's a big common mistake students make. They go to the wrong place. So make sure you understand that this point is this point. Where my arc is intersecting my transversal, that's what you're going to create here. So you can see that that's to the right and down of my vertex, my vertex. So when I go to do it again, there's that point. That point is this point. As I stated in yesterday's lesson, you always want to go a little longer with this arc because you don't quite know where the other side is going to go for your angle. So make sure you go a little bit longer than the original one you drew. But what's important is that your compass stayed the same size in steps 2 and 3. Your fourth step, now you're going to measure. Hopefully this seems familiar, because again, you're doing the same thing we did in the previous lesson in 4.2. You're going to measure from one intersection to the next. Wrap this around, and there it is. And then you're going to carefully slide down to the same place down here, which is where the arc. You're going to go on the arc, and you're going to mark that measurement. There it is. And that moving mark. There we go. And you guys have just one more step. How many points do you need to make a line? You need 2. So you can see here is the given point, so obviously that's going to be one of them. You just created the second one. So now, very carefully with your straight edge, you are going to take your straight edge, and as Miss Nett said in the previous lesson, I like the idea of you putting your pencil down first. You're then going to line up your straight edge, and you can very carefully draw your line. The appearance of this line should be that it is parallel to the given line. If your lines are clearly not parallel, then you need to try this again. You should be able to, with confidence, put those parallel line arrows on these 2 lines. So that is this lesson. Hopefully sorry about that, there's my desktop, found success with this. Really, again, if you think about it, all we did was copy corresponding angles to create the parallel line. So things were in a little bit of a different place. You had more of an angle more than just one angle. However, the construction of this lesson is exactly the same as copying an angle was in lesson 4.2. So as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us through Remind or email us at the emails you can see on your screen. Hopefully you feel confident about constructing parallel lines.
Hey, Mrs. Weichel.
Hey, what, Miss Nats?
Where can you buy a ruler that is 3 feet long?
I don't know where.
At a yard sale.
Because a yard is 3 feet. That's fabulous. All right, thank you so much for joining us with parallel lines. In our next lesson, we'll be talking about perpendicular lines.
See you in 4.4.